Did Abraham Lincoln praise organized labor and slam capitalists? With me to follow the trail of clues back 70 years ago to the real Abe Lincoln are my colleagues Stephen Green and Bill Whittle. Well, men, Washington Post columnist E.J. Dionne says we'd be surprised to learn that old Honest Abe, the Republican, said this: labor is prior to and independent of capital. Capital is only the fruit of labor and could never have existed if labor had not first existed. Labor is the superior of capital and deserves much the higher consideration. Well, it sure sounds like Lincoln could stand on the rally platform with Teamster boss Jimmy Take Out Those SOBs Hoffa and AFL-CIO boss Richard Trumka. But here's the next sentence from the Lincoln speech, which Dionne cut short. Capital has its rights, which are as worthy of protection as any other rights. Now, Stephen, did E.J. Dionne think that we would not actually read Lincoln's speech?
You know, Scott, I've got to take issue with you on this one. A lot of our Republican presidents weren't really as conservative as we remember. I've got a couple of quotes here from Reagan's first inaugural, and I got these from an E.J. Dionne column a couple of weeks ago. The first one is, this is Reagan: capital is dead labor, which vampire-like lives only by sucking living labor and lives the more labor it sucks. And this next one I think is very revealing. It says, let the ruling classes tremble at a communist revolution. The proletarians have nothing to lose but their chains. They have a world to win. Working men of all countries unite. So I got to go with EJ. Sorry, Scott.
I had no idea. Stevie, you're not selectively editing any of Ronald Reagan's speeches, are you? Because that would be dishonest and wrong.
No.
Okay, said that verbatim, did he? Okay.
Well, you know, as it turns out, the relationship between labor and capital was a recurring theme for Abe Lincoln. In fact, here's how he framed it. The prudent, penniless beginner in the world labors for wages a while, saves a surplus with which to buy tools or land for himself, then labors on his own account another while, and at length hires another new beginner to help him. Well, Bill, does this sound like Lincoln was praising dependency on union-coerced, guaranteed benefits for life?
He's praising hard work. He's praising savings. He's praising initiative, vision. He's praising determination, ambition, and then the ability for one man to go out and hire another man. Now, presumably in this world that Lincoln talked about, that new man that he hired would then labor for the first man, save some money for himself, and start his own business. And this is the kind of people Lincoln was talking about. What Lincoln is basically saying here is that labor is the tool that ambitious people use for a few years so that they can become capitalists and not go out and chop wood for the rest of their lives.
Stephen, how does Lincoln's vision of labor and capital differ from what we're hearing from the Obama administration, from big labor, and from big leftist punditry?
I don't think there's really much difference at all. Look, in Lincoln's vision, as Bill just said, you work for someone else until you saved enough to break out on your own. In Obama's vision, you're out of work until the government provides a tax incentive for someone to hire you, and then you get a tax break on your payroll taxes to help you save the money you need to make the down payment on an electric car, which has a tax incentive on it to help you afford it. And you charge your electric car by plugging it into the wind farm the government paid you to install in your backyard. And I kind of lose track after that. It's very complicated, but it's very Lincoln-esque, I promise you.
Stephen Green, host, Hair of the Dog, the Weekend Blogs, and Coast to Coast Tea Party on PJTV.com, and all that stuff is almost as funny as what he just said. His trifecta this week lets the buyer beware of President Obama's Pass This Jobs Bill of Goods. Well, Lincoln actually spoke against what we would call crony capitalism, Bill, the collusion of big business and government to thwart competition. But he said, no men living are more worthy to be trusted than those who toil up from poverty. Bill, what would happen in the economy if President Obama started talking about business people like the real Abraham Lincoln did?
Well, I'm, of course, immediately reminded of Lincoln's remarkable second inaugural speech where he condemned fat cat capitalists and their corporate jets flying around. And as he surveyed the 57 states that were in a state of complete turmoil at his feet, you know, he was a founder of the Republican Party, so I'm allowed to talk like this. Look, it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear that Abraham Lincoln understood the value of hard work because Abraham Lincoln was a rail splitter. He was a frontiersman. He came from a log cabin. Abraham Lincoln was as dirt poor as anybody in the world. So for this guy from the New York Times to claim that Lincoln is basically saying that it's all about getting a fat cat job where you get this cushy pension for doing nothing, and if you don't get your way, you go in and smash things, is the kind of lying mendacity that I've come to expect from the Gray Lady herself.
Bill Whittle's Trifecta this week takes an even closer look at the violent tactics of big labor. Bill can be further enjoyed here on PJTV.com, on Afterburner, and on Klavan and Whittle. Well, special thanks to E.J. Dion today for inadvertently introducing us to this hearty endorsement of the American free enterprise system, which Lincoln, in that same speech, called the just and generous and prosperous system, which opens the way to all, gives hope to all, and consequent energy and progress and improvement of condition to all. This Lincoln, a boy from the backwoods whose homeschooling mother and restless ambition led him to develop his body and his mind to a level of skill and strength above his peers. This Lincoln who competed fiercely, debated vigorously, and met with defeat and failure repeatedly, yet rose to try again. This is the Lincoln we know. And this Lincoln says that the worker yearns to be free, and his ambition eventually opens the door for another who harbors liberty in his heart as well. Labor and capital, hand in hand, seeking mutual benefit, creating new products, new markets, new horizons. And it's the individual man or woman, not the faceless masses of the workers of the world. It's you, my friend, who stands and strives and loses and rises again to win, or dies with dignity in the attempt. For Stephen Green, Bill Whittle, and the entire Trifecta crew at PJTV, I'm Scott Ott.